I always used to believe in quiet love. The kind that doesn't need grand gestures or loud declarations. Just shared glances over morning coffee, the warmth of a hand on your back when the world feels cold. That's what I thought I had with Clara. We were together for 16 years. Married for 12. We had a son, Milo, 17, smart as hell and had my eyes but her stubbornness. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was ours. And I worked my ass off to keep it all running smoothly. I'm 45 now. Been managing logistics for a warehouse company for the last decade. Long hours, night shifts, weekends. I never minded. I figured every hour I wasn't home was an hour buying them something they needed. I missed birthdays sometimes, but I never forgot. I showed up. Maybe not always on time, but I showed up. I ignored the signs. I see that now. Clara had stopped laughing at my jokes. She started going to yoga classes she never used to like, started hiding her phone with the subtlety of a magician. Milo? He stopped asking if I wanted to shoot hoops in the driveway. Barely said a word at dinner. I chalked it up to teen angst. It wasn't. But the moment everything began to unravel wasn't because of some obvious discovery or a screaming match. It started with a fall. A stupid, simple fall. It was a Wednesday morning. I just finished a brutal overnight shift and came home around 6 a.m., exhausted and bleary-eyed. I didn't even take my shoes off. Just made it halfway up the stairs and slipped. The rug runner was folded on the corner, something Clara had said she'd get fixed for weeks. My foot snagged, and I went down hard. Elbow first, then hip, then the back of my head against the step edge. The crack echoed louder in my skull than it probably did in the hallway. My body crumpled into a heap. Pain bloomed immediately, white-hot and electric. My arm bent in a way it shouldn't, my hip throbbed, and my vision danced in flashes. I couldn't move, couldn't shout, just lay there, gasping, waiting for help. And then I heard them. Clara's voice came first, from the kitchen. Shit. He fell. There was no panic in her tone, no fear, just irritation. Then Milo. Is he awake? They didn't rush over. Didn't scream for 911. They just stood at the top of the stairs, watching. Not yet, Clara said, her voice lower now. I could hear her descending the steps slowly, deliberately. This might actually work out. If he's out cold, we've got time. Time for what? I tried to make a sound, anything, but only a strained grunt escaped my lips. I couldn't move my left arm. Something was definitely broken. My eyes fluttered half shut, and I forced them back open, only able to look out the corner of my vision as Clara crouched beside me. We say he slipped. We make it look like he was on something, she whispered. If he ends up in the hospital, we could have everything in motion before he even comes to. Are you sure it's going to hold up? Milo asked. His voice. My kid's voice. So calm. So unlike the boy I used to read to every night. You said the lawyer needed proof he was unstable. We'll take care of that, Clara said. Let's get the bottle. I felt liquid dripping on my chest. The unmistakable smell of gin filled my nose. Then I heard a click. A phone camera shutter. Another picture. More liquid. My shirt was soaked. You're lucky, old man, she muttered softly as she stood. You handed us the golden ticket. The front door opened. Clara must have called an ambulance, but only after they'd staged the scene. The paramedics came in with stretchers and quick hands, and suddenly, Clara was crying, wailing about how I'd been under stress, how I'd been drinking lately, how she'd been so scared when she heard the fall. Milo stood behind her, eyes blank. No emotion. No fear. I remember everything from that moment. Every damn second. They didn't know I was awake. They thought I was out cold, maybe with a concussion or worse. But I heard it all. The lies. The betrayal. My own family preparing to cut me out like a cancer. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed a fractured elbow, minor concussion, and a bruised hip. When they asked about the alcohol smell, Clara jumped in. He's been slipping lately, she said, all crocodile tears and wide eyes. It's been hard. I croaked out, I don't drink. But Clara, never missing a beat, grabbed my hand gently and said, Honey, you don't remember? We talked about this. You've been having blackouts. I wanted to scream, wanted to rip the four out and run. But I didn't. I let the lie sit there. I leaned into it. Because deep inside, something colder than pain settled in my chest. They thought I was broken, helpless, a liability to remove. But they didn't realize who they were dealing with. I've been fixing impossible problems for years, cleaning up disasters no one else would touch. I just became their biggest one. They want to ruin me? Then they'd better be ready for the long game. I don't lose. Not when it matters. And this time, It matters more than ever. Clara didn't notice how quiet I got after the hospital. Or maybe she did, and just assumed it was the meds. Either way, she stopped pretending to care once we were back home. The air shifted. She didn't ask how I was feeling. Didn't even bother faking sympathy anymore. Milo didn't say much either. Just retreated to his room with his headphones on. And when I tried to start a conversation over dinner, he shrugged, mumbled, and walked off. The first few days were hell. Not because of the pain, that was manageable with the meds, but because of the waiting. I knew something was coming. Clara had said, "We'll have everything in motion," before I woke up. So I waited, pretending to be foggy, out of it. The trick was to act confused, like I didn't remember the fall or the hospital too clearly. She bought it. At least, I thought she did. Then came the real blow. On Friday morning, Clara left her laptop open on the kitchen table. The screen was still on. I limped over while she was in the shower. It was an email thread between her and someone named E. The name wasn't familiar, but the conversation sure was. E. You're sure he's unstable enough to move forward with the petition? Clara. We staged the fall. Said he'd been drinking. Got photos. I've got our son as a witness. That's more than enough. I stared at the words until they blurred. Staged the fall. They admitted it in writing. Proof. E. And the bank accounts? Clara. Already moving things. Still got about $30,000 to shift before we can close the joint one. I took a photo of the screen with my phone, then scrolled down. Dozens more messages. They've been planning this for months. Clara talked about a new life, freedom, control, peace. He encouraged it. Said I'd made it easy for them by being passive, oblivious. I'd trusted her. I'd loved her. And now she was orchestrating my erasure like it was just another chore on her list. But the most unexpected part? The twist I never saw coming? The messages turned romantic. I can't wait to wake up next to you without having to pretend anymore. Clara had written in one. I want our real life to start, he replied. He wasn't a friend or a lawyer or even a sister like I'd initially assumed. He was Evelyn. My sister. I didn't believe it at first. Thought it had to be a different Evelyn. But then I saw the email signature. Evelyn McCoy, paralegal, Hardgrove Family Law. My sister. My own flesh and blood. I hadn't spoken to her much in recent years. She lived across town, always busy, always politely distant. We used to be close when we were younger, but life had gotten in the way. Or maybe that was just Clara. Clara never liked Evelyn. Said she was manipulative. But apparently that hadn't stopped them from becoming close behind my back. I sat down in the kitchen chair, staring at the screen as if it could make sense of itself. Evelyn. She'd inserted herself into the middle of my marriage. My life. She was the one helping Clara navigate the legal system. She was the one coaching her on how to move funds, build a case, lie better. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, and my ears rang. And then Clara came downstairs. You okay? She asked, rubbing her hair with a towel. You look pale. I quickly turned the screen off. Just dizzy. Forgot to take the meds. She smiled. Warm, fake, patronizing. You've got to be more careful, honey. You've been so forgetful lately. I nodded and forced a weak smile. Yeah, I guess I have. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling fan, counting each slow rotation. Evelyn. Of all people. Why? I started replaying the last few years. How Clara and Evelyn suddenly began getting along again after years of avoiding each other. How Evelyn stopped inviting me to family events. How she always seemed to know what was going on in my house. Hell, she'd even helped us set up our joint will. I remembered the Christmas party 2 years ago. I'd caught a weird glance between the two of them. Thought it was just me being paranoid. But now, every puzzle piece clicked into place. The sideways glances. The sudden quiet when I entered a room. The inside jokes I was never part of. All signs I'd missed. Or maybe refused to see. They weren't just conspiring to take me down financially. They were doing it together. And worse, Evelyn was in love with Clara. The next morning, I reached out to an old friend of mine. Not a lawyer, yet. He was in law school still, but smart as hell and owed me a few favors. I told him I needed help tracking bank accounts, emails, anything. Said I was worried about being set up. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Just enough to get him started. Then I called my boss and told him I'd need to be on medical leave for longer than expected. He understood. Gave me a full month. I'd never missed a single day of work without calling in early, so he knew I wasn't faking. That gave me time. Time to investigate. Time to unravel the rest of this mess. But first, I needed confirmation. Real proof. I called Evelyn. I asked if we could meet for coffee. Told her I was feeling off, scared about my memory after the fall, unsure what was real anymore. She agreed, hesitantly. Said she had limited time. Of course she did. She had a conspiracy to maintain. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. I wore a mic under my jacket, hidden just above the collar. My friend had helped me set it up. Evelyn hugged me. Awkwardly. Cold. You okay? She asked. Not really, I said, playing the broken man. Things have been weird at home. Clara's been acting strange. She tilted her head. How so? I shrugged. I don't know. It's like she's trying to make me feel crazy. Like I'm forgetting things that I know I didn't forget. She didn't speak right away. Just sipped her coffee. I mean, I continued, do you think she might be seeing someone? That did it. The flicker in her eyes. A flash of something guilt? Panic? I don't think so, she said quickly. I mean, maybe you're just feeling paranoid. It's normal after a fall like yours. There it was. Confirmation. She knew. She was part of it. And now I had her voice saying exactly what I needed. I left the cafe and drove around for an hour, hands trembling. Then I pulled over and started listening to the recording. It was all there. Evelyn defending Clara. Evelyn suggesting I get tested for early cognitive decline. Evelyn recommending that Clara document his episodes. It was subtle, but damning. I sent the audio to my friend with a note. Back up everything. Multiple drives. Lock it down. I wasn't just dealing with a cheating spouse now. I was at war with my family. And they still had no idea I knew. Just wait. They think they cornered me. But I've only just stepped into the ring. The days that followed were a masterclass in pretending. Clara went on with her new routine. Longer hours at work, mysterious phone calls taken outside, and a strange new confidence in her voice whenever she talked to me. Like she'd already won. Like I wasn't even worth lying to anymore. She kept her phone on her at all times now, even brought it into the shower. She forgot who used to teach Milo how to read encrypted file names on his computer. I wasn't some clueless fool she could gaslight into submission. I'd built logistics systems from scratch. I could crack her habits like a damn algorithm. Milo remained distant. He barely spoke to me, just nodded or gave one-word answers. I hated it more than I let on. I used to be his hero. The guy who fixed his bike, helped him build science fair volcanoes. Now he looked at me like I was the neighbor he didn't want to be stuck in an elevator with. There was something different in his silence, though. Something that didn't sit right. Not defiance, not anger, guilt. I'd catch him watching me from the doorway sometimes, like he was trying to read me. I filed that away. Another thread to tug later. Meanwhile, I went into overdrive. I converted the guest bedroom into a small command center. My laptop, the printer, files, voice notes, backups. I cataloged every piece of evidence. I used voice-to-text software to transcribe the recording from my meeting with Evelyn. Highlighted keywords, patterns. Built a folder called Phase 1 and color-coded everything. I treated it like a mission briefing, because that's what it was. The key now was legal positioning. My law school friend, Ruben, connected me to a contact at a local firm, someone who specialized in asset protection and domestic fraud. She wasn't cheap, but after reviewing what I had, she agreed to help. Her name was Kara. Tall, sharp, spoke like every sentence was a closing argument. She took one look at Clara's bank movements and Evelyn's emails and said, "They're not just unethical. They're sloppy." Music to my ears. We built a plan. Step 1. Move half of the remaining joint funds into a newly created emergency trust. Legally protected under my name only. Clara still thought she had access to everything. Step 2. Secure Milo's future without letting him become collateral damage. Kara helped me create an education trust, one that bypassed Clara completely. Milo wouldn't know it existed until he turned 18. I wanted to be angry at him, but he was still a kid. A manipulated kid. I had to believe that deep down, he'd remember who his father really was. Step 3. Leverage Evelyn's involvement. That was the fun part. Kara pointed out something I hadn't considered. Evelyn, as a paralegal, had access to privileged information. By advising Clara and participating in the setup, she crossed the line from family member to unethical practitioner. It opened the door for a potential legal complaint with the state bar and her firm's ethics committee. One complaint wouldn't destroy her career. But 2? 3? We started documenting. And then something unexpected happened. Milo came into my office. No knocking. Just stood there in the doorway holding a small flash drive. "I found this in Mom's nightstand," he said quietly. "You should see it." I stared at him for a moment. Why are you giving this to me? He shrugged. Because you're not crazy. And I think I need to stop pretending. He handed it to me and walked away. I plugged it into my laptop. It was password protected, but not well. The code was Milo's birthday, backwards. Within seconds, folders popped open. Photos, documents, screenshots, all labeled and organized. One folder, D1 Prep, had photos of liquor bottles next to my nightstand, taken weeks before the fall. Another folder had a document titled Custody Strategy, with bullet points like claim cognitive decline, testimony from Evelyn, and Milo references Dad's temper. They were going to use him. My son. They were preparing him to testify that I was mentally unstable, that I'd lashed out, that I'd scared him. And Milo knew. I sat back in my chair and ran both hands down my face. He knew. That night at dinner, I didn't speak. Just watched them. Clara pretending to scroll through her phone like she wasn't waiting for a signal. Milo pushing food around his plate, not eating. I realized then that something had shifted in him. Guilt had turned into doubt. Doubt could become truth. I had a plan for Evelyn and Clara. I had evidence and legal support. But Milo? I needed him to know the truth. All of it. Not just the parts he overheard. The real story. So, after Clara went to bed, I knocked on his door. He opened it slowly. His room was dark, headphones off. For once. I need to show you something, I said. He followed me down to the office. I sat him beside me and opened the folder on the laptop. The audio from Evelyn. The photos. The money trail. The custody plan. Everything. He didn't say a word the whole time. Just kept blinking like his eyes were trying to recalibrate what they were seeing. When it was over, he looked down at his hands. She told me you were losing it. That you forgot stuff. She said we needed to make sure you didn't get hurt again. She lied, I said. They both did. He nodded slowly. Then he asked, what are you going to do? And I told him, not everything, but enough. That there was going to be a confrontation. That Clara and Evelyn wouldn't see it coming. That the truth was going to come out. He didn't answer. But he didn't walk away either. The next morning, Clara was all sunshine and fake smiles. Asked if I was feeling up for a weekend at her parents' cabin. Said it might be good to reconnect. The gall of that woman. I told her I needed to rest. That I still felt dizzy from the pain meds. She smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, I'll handle everything. You just stay here and rest. And then she was gone. By noon, Evelyn was parked in our driveway. I watched them from the guest room window as they walked toward the house, laughing like schoolgirls. They didn't know what I'd seen. They didn't know what I had. But they would. Very soon. I had 72 hours before everything would collapse. That's how long Kara said it would take to finalize the freeze orders on the remaining accounts, file the preliminary civil complaint against Evelyn, and secure the forensic accounting report of the financial sabotage. That would give me the legal upper hand before Clara could play her next move. But life, as it turns out, doesn't wait for strategy. It was the second night Clara and Evelyn had gone out together, a late spa appointment, they claimed. Milo had retreated to his room, headphones on, but he'd left his door cracked this time. Small things like that had begun changing. He no longer looked away when we crossed paths. He no longer flinched when I said his name. There was a slow thaw happening between us. I wasn't sure if I deserved it, but I wasn't about to waste it. I was cataloging emails, again, when I got a call from an unknown number. At first, I almost declined it. Then something made me answer. It was Evelyn's husband. His voice was low, calm, but tense. We haven't met, but I think we should talk. I blinked. Okay, what's going on? I know what she's been doing. Evelyn, I found the emails last week. The money transfers. Everything. How much do you know? I asked cautiously. Enough, he said. Enough to know she's trying to ruin you, and that my wife has been funneling money into a joint account she shares with yours. My stomach twisted. There's more, he added. Clara signed a lease last month. In both their names. 2-bedroom condo in the city. Move-in is scheduled for the 1st of next month. So that was it. They weren't just helping each other. They were starting a new life together. Publicly. Without me. He continued, I'm not calling to warn you out of kindness. I need something from you. I want a copy of the complaint you're filing against Evelyn. I need leverage for the custody hearing. Custody? She took her daughter, he said flatly. Told me she needed a break. That she was staying at a hotel. Turns out she's been taking her to Clara's house, letting her sleep in a guest room while he trailed off. Look, I don't care what they do. But my kid is not part of their drama. I didn't trust him. Not fully. But I believed him. The bitterness in his voice wasn't something you could fake. "I'll send you a copy," I said. "But I want everything you've got too. Emails, screenshots, especially anything proving financial collusion." He agreed without hesitation. An hour later, I had the documents in my inbox. Emails between Evelyn and Clara with subject lines like merge plan, escrow prep, and his memory timeline. It was worse than I thought. They weren't just planning a split. They were creating a false reality. Dozens of messages detailing how to get me legally removed from my own home, push for involuntary psychiatric evaluation, even quietly begin the process of filing for a power of attorney based on mental incapacity. They were trying to erase me. And I realized then, this wasn't just about money. This wasn't just about love or revenge. It was about rewriting the narrative. Clara wanted to walk away not as the wife who left her husband for his sister, but as the brave woman who escaped a downward spiral. A narrative where she was the caretaker, the survivor. Evelyn was coaching her on the story, building it like a legal fairy tale. Until they both got careless. The power of attorney paperwork was drafted, signed, dated, but not by me. They'd forged it. Clara had even gone as far as staging text message screenshots that made it seem like I was spiraling messages I never sent, faked using a burner phone and screenshots edited with cheap apps. Kara's voice was deadly calm when I told her. That's criminal. Forgery, fraud, and if they submitted those texts to a court or planned, that's perjury on top of it. I looked down at the printed documents. All the pieces were in my hands now. The full outline of the playbook. They were going to have me declared unfit, move into a new place together, split the money, and take full control of everything I'd built over the last 16 years. Then came the twist I hadn't planned for. Milo knocked on my door again. "Can I ask you something?" he said, hovering in the hallway. I nodded, and he stepped in. He looked older than 17 in that moment, like whatever was happening had carved years into his face. "Did you ever love Mom?" The question was so quiet, I almost didn't hear it. "I did," I said, "with everything I had." He looked down. "She said you only stayed for me, that you hated her." I shook my head. She lied. We sat there for a long minute. Then he reached into his hoodie pocket and handed me a phone. "It's Mom's old one. She threw it out last month when she got the upgrade. I fished it from the kitchen trash. I think the SIM card's still in there." I took it, not even trying to hide the surge of adrenaline. If the card still worked, and Clara hadn't wiped the phone, there could be months, maybe years, of texts, call logs, messages, and media. Unfiltered. Untouched. I powered it on. The boot logo flickered to life. It wasn't wiped. Everything was still there. I looked up at Milo. He wouldn't meet my gaze. "Why now?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "Because I thought you were broken. But you're the only one who hasn't lied to me." I nodded slowly, feeling something deep in my chest start to ache. Grief. But not for what I'd lost. Grief for what I'd nearly given up on. The day I decided to end it, the sky broke into one of those slow, smothering rains. The kind that doesn't pour, just clings. The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath with me. Clara had no idea. Neither did Evelyn. They thought everything was going according to plan. The weekend before, they'd signed the lease on their new condo. Evelyn's husband had sent me the digital copies. The signatures were clean, polished, legally binding. They were preparing for a life that wouldn't include me. But I had other ideas. I spent the morning printing everything. The emails, texts, bank statements, photos, fake screenshots, the forged power of attorney, and the transcripts of the audio recordings. I laid them out across the dining room table like a museum exhibit of betrayal. Then I made 2 neat folders, one for my lawyer and one for the authorities. I didn't need drama. I needed results. At exactly 6 p.m., Clara walked through the front door, soaked, her umbrella dripping onto the hardwood. She looked tired, irritated, probably from juggling the final parts of the plan. Evelyn would be arriving soon, she said. They were going to finalize some things for Milo's school. I told her to sit down, that I had something important to show her. She froze. "Is this about the fall again?" she asked cautiously. "Because I've told you. It's not about the fall," I said calm. "Steady. It's about everything since." I opened the folder and slid the first page across the table. Her expression shifted when she saw Evelyn's email header. She tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "Don't lie to me, Clara. Not tonight. You don't have to pretend anymore." She stayed silent as I moved through the evidence, piece by piece. Bank withdrawals, lease agreements, the timeline for power of attorney, the forged texts, the phone logs. Her hands started to shake around page 7. By page 10, she stood up and walked to the kitchen, pacing. Evelyn hadn't arrived yet. "You've been spying on me," she snapped. "No," I said. "I've been protecting myself. From you. From both of you." She turned, her face twisted with something between anger and desperation. "You don't understand." "I do," I said, voice hard. "You weren't happy. Fine. You should have left. But you didn't. You stayed, lied, plotted, and when that wasn't enough, you dragged our son into it and tried to rewrite who I am." The front door opened. Evelyn stepped inside, shaking water from her coat. "Hey, sorry I'm late." She stopped cold when she saw Clara standing by the window and me at the table, papers spread like a war map. "What's going on?" she asked, voice wary. I didn't answer right away, just handed her a copy of the folder. Her face paled with every page she flipped through. This is private," she stammered. "No," I replied. "This is illegal. You're not just my sister anymore, Evelyn. You're a paralegal who used your access and knowledge to facilitate fraud. And I have everything I need to make sure you lose your job and your license, if not your freedom." Clara sat down again. Her legs were shaking. I leaned forward. "You thought I'd be too broken to fight back. Too scared. But you forgot who you married. I don't give up. Not when it matters." Clara's voice cracked. "We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did," I said, cold. "And you meant to destroy me. That's worse." She whispered, "What now?" I laid it out plainly. They had 72 hours to move out. Both of them. The house, legally, was mine. I'd already filed with the court to revoke their access to all joint funds. The forged power of attorney document and screenshots had been sent to the district attorney's office through Kara. Evelyn's firm would be receiving a formal complaint within the next 48 hours. Clara's accounts were frozen pending investigation. My lawyer had filed a motion to place a hold on any shared assets until a full audit could be completed. Milo's college trust was now sealed, accessible only to him at 18. Evelyn stood frozen, folder in hand, no words. Clara whispered, "Please, we can fix this." "You already tried," I said. "But you didn't want to fix us. You wanted to fix your life by erasing mine." I walked out before either of them could respond. I spent the night at a small motel off Route 7. The rain didn't stop. I sat by the window, drinking tea from a paper cup, watching the parking lot lights flicker. The next morning, Milo texted me. "They're gone. Left early. Didn't say much. I'm staying with you, if that's okay." I stared at the message for a long time, then replied, "Always." 3 months later, the legal dust started to settle. Evelyn was terminated from her firm. The state bar began investigating. Clara's attempt to file for spousal support was denied. The court ruled in my favor, citing malicious intent and coordinated fraud. The remaining assets were split, heavily weighted toward me thanks to the paper trail. Milo stayed. We talked. Slowly, haltingly, like people relearning a language. He asked questions. Hard ones. I answered all of them. He still sees Clara sometimes. I don't stop him. She's still his mother. But something between them has shifted. Trust is a fragile thing. Evelyn moved out of state. She sent one letter. I never opened it. As for me, I'm still here. In the same house. The stairs are fixed. The locks are changed. The silence is different now. It's not empty. It's peaceful. I see a therapist twice a week. Not to forget, but to heal. I've reconnected with friends. I've started painting again, something I used to love before life became something to survive instead of enjoy. There's no bow at the end of this story. No perfect resolution. But there's freedom. They thought they could break me. Use my silence as evidence. My loyalty is leverage. They didn't realize silence can be strategy. And loyalty, once betrayed, becomes something sharper than revenge. It becomes truth. And that's what saved me.